My name is Nikki. I have worked in search for around 15 years across about 10 different agencies. I have been a trainer, I have been a consultant, I have been a techie, I have been called all the things under the sun whilst working agency side as well. But what I do now is I head up our support team for our partnerships. So that's our banner. That explains a bit more. You're probably sitting on a leaflet about it right now. And my experience, historically, has been clients coming to me and saying, I don't want my ad to show in this particular place. Also, I only want to bid on these very specific keywords, and make sure it looks exactly like this. And then a couple of weeks later, they come to you and they go, why is it not growing? Like, we want everything to be more. And you're like, okay, great, that's good. Why did we do all of these things then, if you wanted to limit everything? And we're seeing this shift from best practice and from rigor and us being super control freakish about everything to having to let go just a little bit. So this is my example of allowing AI to work as well as it can. So I'm going to decide right now that I'm a super rich person with a really big house, and I'm going to ask an artist to make me a picture that's going to go on the wall. And I'm going to be like, I want it to be of a woman, can you make it black and white? I kind of like that whole monochrome aesthetic, that would be great. If you could kind of make it look like someone's like drawn it with, that would be fantastic. And they might come out with something a wee bit like that. That picture on the left-hand side, could you whack your hand up in the air if you would hang that bad boy in your house? Yes. Wow. We will talk later about prices, I'm just saying. What we've got here, Mona Lisa, is what we could have got if we weren't so prescriptive about what we wanted and we didn't try to control everything and we let the artist actually do what the artist is meant to be doing. We won't end up with that gross thing hanging on our wall at home. So, in case you haven't noticed, AI is the artist, right? We're working on that. Okay, cool. So we're going to go through some things that we need to keep a wee bit of an eye on when we're trying to help grow accounts, especially in the land of AI, where there is very little that's in our control. The majority, spoiler alert, of these things are related to feeding more data. We started this session with how important data is, and we need to make sure that we're actually getting that data into the engine so you can then put it into your warehouse, so you can then use machine learning and AI and everything else that comes with it. So, we have to start with something like match type. I know, boo, broad match, gross, everyone hates it. I know. I too have spent years running search query reports, so I completely understand how much we don't like broad match. However, as you can see here, this stat that has been around for ages and apparently hasn't changed because there's no up-to-date stat, so, don't know, maybe the whole world around Google's just standing still and the stats remain the same for probably about 8 years now they've been sharing this, but there we are. 15% of daily search queries on Google have never been searched before. Now this of course poses a wee bit of a challenge to us who are meant to be guessing all of the keywords in the world that anyone's ever going to search about our client's business. Gets a bit difficult. So broad match is, I'm sorry, genuinely a way of doing this. But you have to be a bit careful. I have a dog at home and it's a short haired dog because I know I'm not going to take it to the groomers. Don't use broad match if you're not going to run search query reports. It's just going to get out of control and super difficult. However, one of the things that you can do to offset the whole horror that is broad match most of the time is by using a slightly more accountable bid strategy. So if you were to use broad match with like a max impressions, like target impression share, max clicks kind of strategy, you are going to show for all sorts and it is probably going to be a nightmare. Whereas if you get ROAS strategy, it's only going to be showing to people that are likely to be beneficial to you. Yes, it's gross and it's big and it's baggy and it's a bit unwieldy and out of control, but arguably your bid strategy should really keep it in check. So we're offsetting one super broad thing with one super niche thing to kind of cancel one another out. So what we used to do, we were optimizing towards keyword level performance. We don't really want to do that anymore. We're optimizing towards bottom line metrics. Don't look at each keyword line by line. Just look at the chunk. What's the chunk doing? The other thing to bear in mind here, which isn't always evident when we're looking at reports and reviewing performance, is that you're not just getting the value of the money you're spending, the clicks you're getting, the conversions you're getting, you're also kind of paying for that data to go back into the AI to improve your performance over time. So this is not just paying nowadays for the traffic you're receiving, it's paying for the investment in the data that gets fed in the rest of the decision making. Bless you. Ad copy and format. Who, could you throw your hand up in the air if you were working in search where you had this wee little standard text ad over here? 25 characters in the headline, 35 each. And each. Hi guys. Were you also changing bids by like 2 pence every 10 minutes and getting paid to do it? What a world. What a time to be alive. So we've gone from standard text ads to expanded text ads. We've now gone to responsive search ads. And DSAs, we just love giving things an acronym at this point. But DSAs are kind of the next step on from that. When someone hears DSAs, who goes, oh my god, that's gross, I'm never doing that. I'm kind of one of those people. I'm kind of not meant to be, but I kind of am. The main thing here that we need to focus on, when we had these ad types that we've got screenshots of, we wrote these human jelly brains, we sat there, we drafted it ourselves, we figured out what we liked, what we didn't like, what sounded good, we asked people in the office. It was all very collaborative, pre-COVID, of course. And now we're at a place with DSAs where the engines are going, don't need your human jelly brain, don't need all the information in that. Actually, just need you to sort your website content out, guys. Has anyone ever tried to get content updated on a global website? The laughter means yes. Congratulations for still being around to talk about it. Because usually it takes about 6 months, but I'm afraid it is a necessary evil. It is also a slightly longer term evil, because this isn't just writing an ad copy. This is correcting the foundation that all of your creative is then going to be built from. So, a bit of a bigger deal than just writing an ad, but well worth it. I know we don't like doing it. I know website content, you kind of go, can we argue that that falls down the cracks and it's not really our fault? Can we tell them that that's not our responsibility and it's out of scope because we're a media agency? No, we can't. Because now, instead of focusing on ad copies, we need to focus on the content that is available so that AI can build ad copies. So we need to make it clear. If you're reading the content and you're like, that needs an update, you are not going to want your ads built off of that content. Increasingly, they are going to be built off of that content. Whether you use DSAs or not, that looks like the way that we're going. So bite the bullet, take the time, have a look at your website content. I know, but it's worth it, I promise. Exclusions. So the example that I'm using here, we help a lot with Microsoft. We are Microsoft channel partners at ClickTech. So it makes me chuckle a lot how much people hate Google right now. We have gone to Microsoft events where they have gone, guys, we're the cool ones. Like, we're the cool ones. This never happens. And they're all very excited about it. It's all very sweet. And one of the things that we talk to people about a lot with Microsoft is exclusions. And this applies to anything that you're running. This applies to Google, it applies to anything else, whether you love them or hate them. So you can see this nice little ecosystem situation that we've got going on here. And it's great, it's holistic. We've got things like LinkedIn targeting, we've got your search behavior, we've got your keyword behavior, we've got your native consumption behavior, we've got Bing, we've got Outlook, there's all sorts there. And then we go, wow, what a holistic landscape. Look how organic and natural it is. Oh, but I don't want that bit, or that bit, or that bit over there. No. But it's still holistic, right? No, it's not. No, it's not really. So when we look at these landscapes where we're like, look how clear it is, isn't it great? We've got all these different touch points that can learn from one another. What we're trying not to do is like arbitrarily sack half of them off. It tends to help. Like, feed that data in, a variety of data from different formats and different placements and everything else. It really helps not to just kind of put these big crosses through things. There's something that that makes me chuckle, and I don't mean it makes me chuckle in a mean way, but it does make me chuckle every time I see it, because I answer a lot of support queries. I look at a lot of accounts run by agencies, run by brands, by all sorts, freelancers, you name it. we end up looking at them. And I see lots of people that have excluded Bing.com in their Microsoft Ads account. I get it. A while ago, you could avoid the audience network by adding Bing.com, Outlook.com, Edge.com. Basically, the PTSD from advertising on Gmail has made everyone go, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that on owned and operated sites. You can see here I've seemingly quite randomly got a quote about ChatGPT, which is that around 500 million chats and 200 million images were created through ChatGPT in the last 3 months. This stat is probably about 3 months old, so just bear that in mind. ChatGPT, does anyone know what placement it lives in? Because you can show ads in ChatGPT, that's a thing. It's all the owned and operated ones. So if you are excluding Bing, if you are excluding Outlook, if you are excluding Skype and Edge and everything in between, I'm afraid you're not going to be able to show an ad when someone's searching stuff on ChatGPT that could be relevant to you. Hashtag bad times, right? So let's try not to add exclusions that cover the entire domain that we're actually trying to advertise on, because that doesn't always end well. So previously we'd go, let's not with the owned and operated, it's not good enough, we don't like the quality, it's rubbish. Now, specifically with Microsoft, just as an FYI, it's actually where some of the better placements live. Like Microsoft Start, it's the kind of formats that you would usually arrange some kind of content partnership with the expectation of getting those native kind of formats. They're quite impressive, so I would have a look. But now we're trying not to exclude random giant chunks of stuff, because then when the data's trying to figure out the connections between different people's behaviours and all that kind of stuff, we've removed a chunk of that data that now can't see because we never ran ads there. I'm not saying do it just for the data, but at least test it before excluding it. That's all I ask. The mention of ChatGPT leads us on fairly swiftly to how people are using it. So we tend to find people when they don't know what they're looking for, searching using ChatGPT, as opposed to using like traditional search. Once you get to long tail, bottom of the funnel, I know what I'm looking for, I need these shoes in this size and this colour, they're back on search. They're back on traditional search engine. The kind of stuff that we're seeing in GPT is things like, what shoes can I wear to Coachella? And I always imagine Coachella said in that accent, by the way. Or like, what tent can I take to Glastonbury if I'm planning on doing loads of drugs, or something like that. I don't know, varies, many people in the world. Bear that in mind, in terms of exclusions, ChatGPT, audience networks, placements, way of showing, because not all of these like short tail super generic searches are happening on a search engine anymore. Also, images. I always felt like we got off fairly lightly when everyone was talking about creative and formats and aspect ratios, and I'd be like, I work in search, so I just write them, I don't need to deal with this. Unfortunately, fortunately, depending on your leaning, that is not the case anymore. So now we have, this is a multimedia ad. They're fun, they're extra fun on Microsoft because you can show in position 1 paid and also on the right hand side with a multimedia ad. So you can have 2 ads on the same search, which is unheard of. But we've got multimedia ads, we've got image extensions, we've got discovery campaigns, we've got native and audience network and search partners, and there are all these things included now that are not text. So we, kind of reminding myself here, need to stop being like, that image thing has nothing to do with me, that creative conversation's nothing to do with me. I don't know, I don't care what colour hair the woman had in the Facebook creative that got the highest engagement rate, because I work in search. Well, now we kind of need to care. Because there's more and more of this imagery coming up within search products, and we're just not used to having these conversations. So historically, we'd be like, display, video, everything's happening outside of search. They're different channels, they're different platforms, they've got different formats. Now, I have my own opinions of certain campaign types. I'm sure everyone else has their own opinions of certain campaign types. One thing that I'll mention when everyone gets a bit funny and a bit shifty and a bit unhappy about someone, let's say Google as an example, going, no, it's fine, run your search with us, and your video with us, and your display with us, and your retail media with us. and your app promotion, and everyone gets a bit like, that's not what Google is. I don't want to run all of that from Google. Google's just search. Instead, what I'm going to do is run all my video and display and app promotion and native in totally random third-party platforms that can't read any of the data from one another, and then we're never going to dedupe the data, so we're just going to go, I don't know. We ran like display over here, we did native on Taboola, and then we did that over there, and they're all separate. Just consider that if you're running them all in Google or all in Microsoft or whatever your chosen platform is, each of those streams of your media plan can share data with one another and actually see the performance to help to optimize through machine learning. If we do the old school, you're the social team over there, you're the display team over there, you guys deal with the video stuff, that data doesn't get optimized in the same way. The visibility doesn't happen in the same way. It's kind of like when we had that shift to, oh my god, we work in search and now we have to run YouTube ads. Shit, how do we do that? What's a cost per completed view? Kind of like that. But now we've got lots of new things that we have to pay attention to. So please try not to allow the structure of your business to be the enemy of your performance just because there's a team over there with the word video in it. Doesn't mean that you don't do video in search as well now. Now we're cool and fun. It's not just text. Data and parameters. So speaking of feeding data into machine learning, into AI, making sure it's got visibility of things. There is another thing that I think we human jelly brains like to do, and that is to overestimate our capabilities, most of the time. But what we're talking about here, this is my man and machine representation, that's the best I could do. This slightly floppy hand is representing people stuff. This is all the value that people bring. So we know that we did audience research, and we had that study from Dunnhumby, and the econometrics team did that MMM study, so now we have that arbitrary 0.5% multiplier on numbers in reports, even though it happened 5 years ago, but we still do it. You know, all those kinds of things. We know the macro marketing plan as well. We know all the other channels that we're showing on and how we've planned it and why. The thing is, what the engine has that we don't have is behavioural data. It knows how all these people act and what other stuff that they do. It knows our campaign performance because it's got all the historical data in it, and it's got journey analysis as well of which consumer journeys were successful and which ones were not. And it can act accordingly to make decisions to help to improve our media. So what we are doing here, all these articles that are like, is it going to be AI? Is it going to be humans? Psych, neither. It's going to be both. We need to figure out how to use it. It's figured out how to use us. So maybe we could do it the other way around as well. So part of feeding the AI, machine learning, depending on what we're talking about, data, is making sure that we're not limiting our activity too much. My voice is plenty loud without this microphone anyway, don't you worry. So at the bottom I've got a scale of parameters. And you might not think of some of these as parameters. I do. I have a very literal brain. So when you create your campaign, you give it a budget, add some keywords, you give them a maximum bid. Those aren't parameters, that's just setting up your campaign, right? No, wrong. Those are parameters. You started off with the whole world. You started off with the whole of the search engine, and then you went, but I only want to spend this amount. Oh, and only on those keywords? Oh, and also, if possible, can I not spend any more than this? Is that okay? We've already got 3 parameters. We have to have those because it's how it runs. However, when it then comes to parameters that aren't quite as necessary, like exclusions, really specific match types, scheduling only to our opening hours and that kind of stuff, what we're doing is we're just limiting and limiting and limiting the frame of data that our campaigns have to reference. I'm not saying don't add these. I'm saying add them if you need to. Don't be like, oh God, I'm being so irresponsible if I don't exclude literally every single user from this that doesn't completely match my audience. Because weirdly, the AI can learn from unsuccessful journeys as much as it learns from successful ones. This is why testing is quite helpful. Because if you just do this one little thing that works well, it's going to stay very little. It's not going to be able to grow. So historically, we were control freaks. We applied parameters everywhere. We would be worried that clients would ask us, why have I showed up for this keyword when I should not have? Nowadays, we should really, I think, be more worried about clients or stakeholders getting in touch and going, why are we not in this space? whatever that space might be. There's been a wee bit of a shift here. So we've got to try and get as much data through to the engine as possible and try and figure out as much about those journeys as possible, even if it's the AI that figures it out for us or the machine learning that figures it out for us and not us human jelly brains. So in summary of this very quick whistle-stop tour of me just generally complaining is how these things tend to end up. Firstly, please try to put your trust in the algorithm. I know it means putting trust in people like Google that are created to take your money and never give it back. But I feel like we have to pick our fights as tech is developing and as there's this thing that we do 5 days a week, 4 days a week for us, we're part of the government trial, it's great. But this job that we're doing all the time that we know so much about, we're very control freakish, we're very protective about it. We are going to have to decide which bits of tech and AI we learn about and harness and figure out how we want to use it in campaigns. And if there's some of those that you go, I am absolutely not using those, I hate them, I'm never using broad match, that's fine, but you need to figure out an effective way around it to get similar results. So some things to reconsider here. Pinned RSA assets. Don't pin every asset. That's not responsive. That's not the point. CPA and bid thresholds, yes, you need them, but just remember, like if you as a human jelly brain, with all of the information that you have, cannot achieve that CPA, the chance that the algorithm is going to come in and just go, don't worry guys, I nailed it immediately, is super unlikely. So make sure it's got a wee bit of wiggle room. Match types, I know we like everything in exact match, but it makes reports super long. I know it's not exact match anymore, but it still means that you're having to run search query reports to find new keywords. Use broad match, run search query reports to exclude them instead. It's all the same, it's just one of them is a bit more growth-minded, the other one is a bit more like worried-minded. Secondly, provide the engine with as much data context as possible. Sometimes you've just not got that much data. Sometimes, not that many people are buying stuff from you. It happens. The challenge that we have nowadays is that with the reliance on AI, a small amount of data then makes the AI kind of seize a bit. Has anyone been running a bid strategy before and it's just run into the ground? And they've been like, that's super weird that all of a sudden I'm not really serving ads, not really getting any conversions. And quite often it's because that data volume is dropping and it kind of inbreeds as it drops. So data volume drops, oh God, I've got less data, now I don't know what to do. I won't show the ad in case I exceed the CPA. Oh no, now I've got even less data. And it kind of goes downhill like that. So some of the ways that we can help to combat that. Upload offline conversions, it's data. You might not use it for reporting, but this data is not for you, it's for the AI. So even if you're not reporting on it, it's still helpful. Full funnel tracking. When someone adds something to a basket, when they watch a video, when they go on your contact us page, all of these things that at some point you've probably vaguely recommended to a client that they track, but you said it in a half-hearted way, you were never going to report on it, you were never going to look at it, you just needed something to suggest to them in that moment in time and you thought, that's unlikely to go wrong or come back on me. That one should probably start actually doing that, because it's actually quite helpful. Conversion values as well. Whilst you're tracking all of those things, stagger your conversion values so you tell the engine which conversions are worth more to you and which are worth less to you. You can lie, you can say one is 100, the other is 5. That may not even vaguely resemble the revenues that you get for those sales, but who cares? It's only to give the AI an indication. We're not using that for reporting data. We're using it for like activation, AI feeding data. And thirdly, not that anyone here is saying, but how do I think like an algorithm? But if it was in your mind, if you're trying to figure out how the algorithm works, if you want to try to plan alongside it to get the best out of it, you need to think like the algorithm, which means we should not be biased. We need to stop getting hung up on what's paid social and what's video and what comes out of the performance budget versus the branding budget and all of that kind of stuff. Because the AI doesn't see that. It sees a holistic network of placements that it's trying to manage you across all of them. So I suppose the main outtake of this is we may think that AI is getting in our way. 9 times out of 10 it's actually the other way around, and it's quite good at what it does. So I suggest that we try to stop being such control freaks, myself included, and allow it to work as effectively as it was designed to, so we don't have to complain about it so much in the future. Thanks, everyone.